You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 79. Nipping Avoidance in the Bud, a coaching session with Shannon Crow. If you are an entrepreneur who wants actionable solutions to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Today is a very special episode, and it's the first of a series that I'm doing on air coaching. Before we dive into meeting Shannon, I do want to give you a little bit about what to expect in this special podcast episode. I have decided to do some on-air coaching to pull back the curtains and give you a little bit of insight as to what you can expect from me in coaching. Now, I do need to tell you, you will find this episode and coaching session probably really valuable, but it's not exactly the way that I coach. And the reason why I say that is because the people that have chosen to come on air and share their coaching experience with you, the listener, this is a one-time coaching experience. And normally, or in fact, all the time, my coaching clients, it's an ongoing relationship over a 6-month period where we dive deep into all types of topics that could be holding them back from success or productivity, reaching their goals, executing on their plans. And so we go super, super deep. Next, I want to just kind of talk about my unique approach to coaching. Now, coaching is a word that is thrown out there by many, many people online and in business in general. And I have come up with my own unique way of coaching and how I approach my coaching with clients. I would best describe it as a hybrid experience of both coaching and training. And the reason is because I truly believe that you probably have a lot of the answers yourself. And there are times and topics and situations in which the right questions could be asked that will unfold the path in front of you or your next steps. But there's also a time and place where, well, training and strategy and advice are just as valuable. You know, I could ask questions and wait for you to respond and reply, but if you're not pulling from a toolbox of skill sets or experiences, then I think that the journey is longer than it needs to be. So my coaching is definitely a hybrid of both training and coaching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I am sure that you're going to get some great insights. And Shannon was amazing to be able to share the coaching experience with you. I'm looking forward to you meeting Shannon Crow. Shannon is the host of the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast and a consultant for yoga teachers. She shares what she's learned and continues to learn as a yoga entrepreneur. Shannon is passionate about this work so that yoga teachers have more time and energy to share the yoga that lights them up. She became a yoga teacher in 2006 and continues to teach weekly group and private classes in Owen Sound, Ontario, with a specialty in yoga for pelvic health. Shannon is dedicated to helping yoga teachers define their niche and thrive at marketing. She thrives in a community that is playful, diverse, and supportive. This is what inspired her to create the Connected Yoga Teacher Facebook group. Shannon offers in-person and online teacher training. She is the co-founder of the Mama Nurture Prenatal Yoga School and developed the Yoga for Pelvic Health teacher training. When listening in on my coaching session with Shannon, you will discover ways avoidance is hindering your success, how profitability should be looked at from both sides, tips for reconciling receipts productively, how to best tackle your backlog, ways to determine what's bogging you down, the basics of implementing Mike Michalowicz's Profit First method, and what a coaching session may look like by working with me, and so much more. So let's dive right in and meet Shannon. This episode of Productivity Straight Talk is being brought to you by my signature coaching and training program, Stop the Entrepreneur's Success Solution. To find out more about this special program, head on over to theproductivityspecialist.com/stop, S-T-O-P. Hello, Shannon. Welcome to Productivity Straight Talk.
Hi, Amber. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I was so excited to see your application come through for on-air coaching. I can't wait for our listeners to get to know you. And the topic that you chose for today's session is so important, and I think it's going to resonate and help so many people. So thank you very much for being here today.
Yeah, it's great. I will say I'm a little bit nervous to dive in, but only because I know that I need to take a look at things.
Yeah, I think that anybody would be nervous. I've often thought of what would this be like if I was the coachee on air, and I would be nervous no matter what the topic is. So great job. So before we jump into today's topic, I would love for you to give some context and some background on you and your business so that our listeners can get to know you a bit.
For sure. So I am a yoga teacher. I've been a yoga teacher for a long time. And then I specialize and train yoga teachers now in two things, yoga for pelvic health and also prenatal yoga. And recently, 80 some episodes ago, I started to host the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast. So that's really taken off quickly. And the majority of work that I do now is consultation calls with yoga teachers and putting the podcast together.
Excellent. And so how long have you been in business?
Well, that's a really tricky question. I feel like I've been in business my whole life since I could run a little lemonade stand. But
that's awesome.
But just this business of being a yoga teacher has been 13 years. Being a consultant for yoga teachers is probably 4 or 5 years now. And then the podcast is coming up to 2 years.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that's awesome. That's great. So I love that you're a podcaster as well. I think it's this amazing community that we get each other, these weekly deadlines and all the things podcasting. So it's always great to meet fellow podcasters. Okay, so I know what the topic is, but I would love for you to share in your own words. What are we going to cover today in today's coaching session? What do you want to talk about?
Sure. I think boiled right down, it's that I know and I can see that I avoid certain parts of accounting. And it isn't because I don't have a good accounting background. I used to do bookkeeping for another business. I did bookkeeping when I had a farmer's market. Now there are two pieces to it. Things have picked up and I could say I'm so busy, I don't have time to always get to the accounting, but I think it's much deeper than that. I think it's that I'm avoiding it. It's almost like I don't want to see the big picture. I'll look at smaller parts of the picture. I'll look at how much income comes in from this revenue stream. How much is this? But big picture, I'm not looking at it all.
You're not looking. And it's not that you don't think you should. You are avoiding it, the big picture. Okay. Excellent. And have you ever looked at the big picture, or will this be new?
No, I feel like sometimes thinking back now, I think that I usually put my accounting together for year end. And then I'm like, oh, that's what the year looked like.
Yeah. And would it be a true statement that you put the year end numbers together way later? You're not looking in January what happened last year.
No. And my year end is allowed to be June. And so I really push it.
Okay.
I've been late for the last few years. That's the part where I'm like, it can't be that I'm busier. I do know that I'm busier, but at the same time, I think I'm looking less at what's going on.
Right. So can you share with me what that would look and feel like if you were looking at the big picture on a regular basis?
I don't know if it's impossible or not useful to see things every week, but I kind of think it would be nice to know, okay, this is what this week looked like, or most definitely the month. What did the month look like?
Okay.
What's interesting about my business is that, say, there's a yoga teacher training that I'm leading, I'll get payments way in advance, like the deposits come in, and then there's this big chunk of a payment. It's not a steady income, say back when I had, like if I had a regular job, it's not like that.
Right. And I think that many entrepreneurs can feel that, right? We have launches and products and seasons, and for whatever reason, most businesses aren't really, really steady, or at least online businesses, in my experience. So I get that. Now, if you were to look at your monthly bigger picture, and we're talking bigger picture, we're essentially talking about like your profit and loss. What's your income and what's your income per revenue stream, as well as what are your expenses? What would that do for you and your business, having that knowledge in real time on a monthly basis?
Well, I know every time I look at my expenses, if I get a Visa bill, because here's the thing, the more and more things move online, it's almost like it's harder to see. So I switched to getting my business statements for my Visa on paper, even though I pay a little extra fee, because I want to have that paper copy with me. And when I see that, I'm like, oh, I'm paying for that online storage and I'm not using it. Or our family signed up for Apple Music and really no one's using it. So the more I look at it, the more expenses I can cut out. My big picture goal would be that I feel like everything is covered, instead of this unknown is kind of leaves me like scrambling. I feel like a squirrel.
Yeah. And one thing that came up for me hearing you say not just expenses, because we can look at profitability really two ways. Either you're going to keep increasing your revenue, or you're going to also look at your expenses. So I guess I didn't say that correct. I'm just saying, for profitability, you want to look at both sides. And I think that in business, many of us get so fixated on just pushing revenue, but not always looking at the expenses. And sometimes they kind of get out of control or forgotten. And then now we got to work so much harder to bring in the same amount of profitability into our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So our goal would be to be looking at revenue and expenses. And so on a monthly basis, you'd be able to audit your expenses and find out, is there any waste? But on a revenue standpoint, do you know what programs or offerings are most profitable for you to maybe decide which ones to continue doing or not doing?
I mean, right now, the podcast, we have a podcast sponsor, so that's going really well. And that's something that's like a weekly, we have the same sponsor, and I know what my expenses are for that. I feel like that's really clear picture, probably because it's the same thing every single week.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the other revenue streams, that's a great question. And here's what I got thinking over the last month. A yoga teacher training looks like a very large chunk of money, but by the time all of the expenses come off of that, printing manuals, paying for an assistant, if I have someone helping, paying a percentage for the space, it's actually not as much as I thought it was.
Right.
That might be why I'm like putting my head in the sand. Maybe I'm afraid that I'm going to have to let something go off the list.
Yes. I think you've just hit on something. Ignorance is bliss, kind of the saying, ignorance is bliss. You're trucking along, things are okay, but okay is the enemy of really looking great. And I am going to encourage you, and you reached out to me, but I'm going to encourage you that we're going to get to a place that you are looking at the numbers on a monthly basis. And that's not as simple as just saying looking at the numbers. That means that there has to be processes and organization on the back end so these numbers are in real time. And so we're going to dive into that in today's session as well. But what I'm going to encourage you to do is that once you have that information, then it's Pandora's box. Then we're going to open that box and say, okay, so for you to be your most productive self, where are you going to invest your time? What products, what offerings, and what teachings? And see, that's how it's all connected. The organization of our receipts and our numbers flow right into major decisions in our business on how we're investing our time and resources.
Right. That might be why I'm avoiding it more and more.
Yeah, because numbers alone don't mean anything. It's what the numbers mean. Okay, we can figure that out. You can even outsource it. And I have clients that outsource a lot of this and then get emailed the reports and still don't look at it. Because the real hang up is, what do the numbers mean to you in your business and what decisions need to be made? So you landed on that 100%.
Okay. Is that something that would happen monthly then? You'd have to look at it and possibly make decisions monthly?
Yeah, I look at mine monthly, but I make decisions quarterly because I'm strategically looking at my business in quarters. One a month alone, we can all have a dip. And I don't want anyone to like drastically be making these huge business decisions in an isolated 1 month.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense. Right.
And then for you, I would be recommending looking at, yes, you're going to be looking at it at a month, but you're going to look at your numbers based on the offerings. Each offering, each training, or each type of training is going to have its own sort of profit and loss. Like, how profitable is that thing? One of the things that you had mentioned was the manuals and the running the space and the override. But what I didn't hear you say is, how much time does each, right? So how much are we paying you?
Right. Or you're going to ask that.
Yeah, exactly. And how much time you're investing personally and or your team members. And now as a whole, does it make sense? Shannon, I don't want to say that if it's a loss or very minimal, like to scrap it. No, like now you have to take it into context of, are you building something bigger? Is it something that's now replicatable and it took a lot of work the first time, but now the manual's created? So there's a lot of decisions to be made, and to rashly make decisions based off of one running of a product or 1 month at a glance, I don't think is smart. I think that really looking at it quarterly would be the best move for you.
This is interesting because I'm just thinking of two things that I run that are very similar. So one is a 4-hour workshop for yoga students. It's all pelvic health. And I just set the hourly rate. I already have all of the materials ready to go to print out. I know that I make $400 in that 4 hours. Yet when I go teach a 2-day training to yoga teachers, I just feel the need to like revamp, add to the manual, put all kinds of time into it. It's 2 whole days. And I'd be lucky probably to walk out of those 2 days with profit of $400.
Right. Right. Well, okay. So the simple thing is, heck, I would like you to work for 4 hours for 400 versus 2 days. But let me ask you this. You used the words, I feel the need to revamp. And just for clarity on my part, are you saying every time you teach it, you're revamping it?
Yeah, because I'm always learning new things to add into it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. I mean, I have my own programs and products that you don't know what you don't know, and you teach it a certain way and you're like, oh, I could add this, right? And we're always learning. You're always up-leveling yourself. So I get that. The best advice would be, can you set a limit to how much time you're investing each time for upgrades?
Right. Yeah. Otherwise, I just keep going. Like if I say I'm going to spend the weekend doing it, it will take the whole weekend.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So that's called Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law says our tasks expand to the amount of time given. And right now, there's probably not a huge container on it. And I didn't do a personality assessment with you. I generally always with my clients. So I'm just going to ask this. Do you have a tendency for perfectionism?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's kind of what I heard, but I didn't want to make any assumptions. So I get it. Like you have this desire that it always needs to be better. Like you're always looking at revamping it. And that literally can be a productivity black hole. Okay.
Right.
And I'm speaking from one perfectionist to another. And I'm going to share with you a quote that one of my mentors, Darren LaCroix, shared with me. And I literally believe that this man was put in my life for this one quote. Okay. Done is more profitable than perfect.
Right. It's so true.
Yeah. And perhaps you get evaluations at the end of the 2-day. Do you currently do that?
I don't. I forgot to do that the last time, but that's supposed to be part of the 2-day. Yes.
Right. So traditionally, we would do evaluations to get feedback and make things better. For perfectionists, I think you need to use it as feedback to not make it better.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Because maybe someone's going to give you a nugget. That's great. Go in, fix the thing. But if you were to get outstanding reviews at the end of your 2-day conference, would that be enough to know that you could literally replicate that and give that amazing value and service?
Probably. The only time I hit a glitch is like if there's a new study that comes out or there's new, because I reread it and I'm like, oh, there's new things because it happens once every 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. So I think that between setting a container, an amount of time that you're willing to invest in revamping it, plus hearing that people got amazing value for it together, I think you will be able to replicate this on a more reoccurring basis to protect that profitability. Because now we're taking into consideration your time. Like, how much is your time worth?
Okay.
That's
helpful. Yes.
All right, awesome. So I want to back this. We literally went down this trail, which is amazing. And it all affects mindset. And for anyone that's been listening to this podcast for some time, I think mindset has 1,000% to do with our productivity. Because when we're finding resistance or we're finding sticking points or, all of that, it starts with mindset. And then once we get our mindset right, there's flow and then the productivity increases. Okay. So I love that we are talking about this, talking about like the real concern about what are the numbers going to tell me, and then what big decisions have to be made in our businesses. Now, let's talk strategically and like organizationally. What does your bookkeeping and money system look like right now?
So it has changed since chatting with you the last time we had a call together, putting a few different things in place. It has improved. Overall, though, like I said, I'm usually late on getting my taxes done. I'm not taking a look at things monthly. And then now I just, like as of last year, the end of 2017, I opened a separate business bank account. I hadn't done that before. And I started using QuickBooks. I was trying to use Wave for a while. It had a few little glitches. And then I thought about doing an Excel spreadsheet. And I was like, no, I really need something that will just pull my transactions and then I can match them really quickly. Yeah. So that's all set up now. Also, the other thing that was really bogging me down, and I actually passed this over to my VA, is that in 2017, all of my emails, like, how all those receipts are in email.
Yeah.
I went through and I at least sorted them into a folder for her. And then she saved them in Dropbox as a PDF. So I paid for her time, but it was well worth it because it's kind of a mind-numbing task. She was up for doing it. She did say to me, "You're way behind on your accounting. You do know that."
Yes.
So now for 2018, we're kind of ahead of the game. Like, she does it at the end of every month. She's putting those over there in Dropbox. And I just literally have to go in and match them and make sure everything's there, as well as my paper receipts. But it's like, I don't have a system. Like, I thought about doing it on Fridays. I have good intentions and then I just avoid it.
Right. Okay. So that's really good information. And then just because this coaching session is a little bit different, we're podcasting, just to let our listeners in, you and I did a strategy session at the end of 2017, right? And we were talking about some of these things. And one of the techniques I had shared was, if you're not doing it and you shouldn't be doing it, have your VA PDF these receipts, get them out of your inbox because they were overwhelming. That's actually a technique that I use on my team as well. We just move all the receipts that are coming into me into a folder, and then she gets a task to go in and PDF them. So I just wanted to flesh that out for anyone that's listening, is that this day and age, so much of our receipts are digital, and then they're getting lost in our emails. And then just imagine the nightmare of trying to go find these receipts, either in our emails or trying to replicate them by logging into all the platforms and downloading all the receipts. Like, that backlog is disastrously a waste of time. So great. I'm so glad you have that system in place. Mm-hmm. And you started using QuickBooks, and you have separated out your business and personal. Those are huge wins, okay? Because none of that was when we got on our call together. So I do want to recognize that you have made forward progress, and that because you made that forward progress based on our strategy session, that's probably why you tapped me and said, I'm ready for level 2. Like, I'm ready for that next step. And so it's okay. There's no way that we could have gone so deep in strategy in one session and you would have felt like, oh, I can go take action on it. It would have overwhelmed you. So you literally took everything that we said, you executed on it, and now we're here for more. So let's take that foundation that you've created and up level it.
I'm glad you focused on the positive there, because honestly, it feels like I am at a snail's pace with this. So that helps. Thank you.
Absolutely. No. So I think that accounting and organization like this feels like a snail's pace for most people. And so just the topic may feel that way, but also I think you just made a good point. Anyone that's making progress, it never feels the same to ourselves because we are so much harder on ourselves. I remember catching up with a girlfriend of mine 2 weeks ago. And I was telling her, I'm like, oh, I'm just in a slow season. Like I had, slayed some goals last month and gosh, I'm just feeling like I'm crawling away. And then we start talking and I was like, oh, maybe I'm not crawling, right? Like it feels that way when we're in it. But then when you really take the time to identify wins, it could be so helpful. So you've set a great foundation and now we're ready for level 2. The first thing I heard you say was best of intentions. You have it scheduled for Fridays. Mm-hmm. What do you have specifically scheduled for Fridays? What is it that you're supposed to do?
On Fridays, I make sure that the podcast is ready because it goes out on Monday. In an ideal world, I'm doing that. And because we used to have a Saturday release, so it's really got me right on the ball. So I'm not doing it on Sunday usually. So I do that on Fridays. And then I feel like I'm just going through my email, like tidying things up. I very rarely book one-on-one sessions with yoga students on Fridays, but I have lately. And then sometimes, like this past Friday, the kids had a day off school. So we went away for the day and did things. And then I lose that Friday.
Yeah. So what is it that you do want to accomplish? And specifically, I guess, financial. Is this like looking at your numbers, reconciling your receipts? Like, can you give me some insight into what it is you have planned that's not happening?
Ideally, I just like to take all of the receipts that I got through the week. And this is interesting because right now, it's so good that it's a podcast and you can't actually see the piles in my kitchen. So I have the accounting out because I kind of feel like if I remind myself, if it's sitting right out near where I have my computer, then I'll do it more, but that's not actually working. I get caught up in like, what should the system be? Like even with paper receipts. So this past week, a yoga student gave me some cash. I did put it in an envelope and marked it because I love that at the end of the week where I'm like, I have no idea where this came from. Or a check. I have a check sitting there and then I have some receipts. Ideally, I'd have this file. It'd be so easy and I'd just go through it and I'd feel like completion every single Friday.
Okay, great. So I'm going to backtrack just for a moment. You already answered your own question, but I just want to reflect this back to you. You said, I am currently keeping piles in my kitchen by my computer to remind me to do the thing, and it's not working. If it's not working, I'm inviting you to put the piles away.
Okay.
The piles are not helping you positively, and I can guarantee they're affecting you negatively.
Yes.
So it is used as a physical reminder, a trigger. That's common. That's why piles are around us or papers or stickies, is that we're literally utilizing those as triggers. But it's like a misfire of the trigger. It's triggering you all right, but it's not triggering you into the positive of taking action. It might just feel so freaking overwhelming that it's not working. And I want you to not feel overwhelmed. So I am going to invite you to get those out of your common area, out of the kitchen, and find another home for them. And we're going to use a different way to ease into following through with those tasks other than visually looking at piles.
Okay.
That
sounds good.
All right. Awesome. And so what I heard you say is that ideally you would like to get through the piles. The piles are all signifying something, whether it's an envelope to process a payment or a check or anything. Now, in your business, is it necessarily needed to do this on a weekly basis?
I would like to, just because I see some yoga students on a weekly basis. I work at a physiotherapy office as well, and I work one-on-one there. And they'll say to me, can I get a receipt? And I feel like I'm always waiting until month end or even a little bit past the month. And that makes me feel really uncomfortable. I feel like it's not professional.
Okay.
And if it was wrapped up by Friday, it would feel like, everyone has what they need if they needed a receipt.
Yes. Okay. So I think that if you want to do it weekly, which is processing your income and giving receipts, weekly is fine. To do a deep dive into reconciling everything and doing all of those things, I don't think is needed on a weekly basis. My guess is that you don't have so many expenses that it's going to make sense to dive deep and then get out, and the next Friday dive deep and then get out, versus doing this maybe once or twice a month and batching it that way and having a more deeper, this is it, my accounting time.
Okay.
So kind of releasing yourself of the obligation to do all the things accounting and truly accomplish your goal, which is what you really want to do is receive your income, because we don't want to sit on income. We want it in our accounts, and then give receipts. And that probably could all happen in 15 to 20 minutes a week.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. Now let's just kind of talk about the process. You have income coming from multiple ways. That's something that you had said in your application. And that in itself is kind of like the top, right? Like, how do you manage all the income places and track them?
One example of that was money was coming into Stripe, and it was my VA that was like, I think you can set this up so that you get an email, and that way we can move it over into that receipt folder. Like, it was that simple. Mm-hmm. But for a while, we have to go back and chase those payments. Like, what was that for that went through in Stripe?
Yes. Okay, great. So now you're getting an email, right? Mm-hmm. And you do have Stripe connected I guess you don't have Stripe connected. I have your bank account connected, and the deposit shows it came from Stripe automatically, right? To be processed in QuickBooks.
So Stripe is connected through my scheduling software, Schedulicity. And then I feel like it just moves some over every once in a while. Like Stripe moves it over.
Yeah. So Stripe is a third-party payment processing. I use the same thing. And what's going to happen is on a very regular basis, say you got paid today, in 3 days, you'll get it in your bank account.
Right.
So what you don't need to do is connect Stripe to QuickBooks, but is your bank account connected to QuickBooks where it automatically enters expenses and deposits?
Yeah.
So now you're looking at, you have these emails coming in, James Smith paid you, whatever, $100. And then you're going to see $100 deposit waiting for you to reconcile. And at that point, you need to connect the two, that Stripe payment is Jane Doe of $100, right?
Right.
Okay, good. And that we want to do on a regular basis so it doesn't get out of control of like, where did the money come from? I think that is a really good process to have on a weekly basis, is just making sure your deposits go in and that they're attached to the right person.
Okay.
Are these reoccurring payments, by the way? Are the clients where you're getting $100 every week, or I'm just giving numbers?
No, because mostly they buy like a package of 4 yoga classes. So then that will last them anywhere from 1 to 2 to 6 months. It really depends on how often they come to see me.
Okay, excellent. So then are you using the feature sales receipts in QuickBooks?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I think your VA could help you with this. Now, just kind of thinking about that, would she have knowledge of what they paid for based on the price that came in? Like if it said Jane Doe $100, would she know that was your 4-pack?
That's sometimes the tricky part of it. No, not always. Her and I have sat on the phone before and she's like, okay, what's this for? And I can easily know just by the name what they signed up for, because I also sell some of my online trainings through Schedulicity as well. Like they book online consultation calls, same thing. But she might be able to guess some of them.
Yeah.
I think now the new Stripe email says what it's for on there.
I was just going to say that. So like when my money comes in, it says the program they paid for. So in that case, now she should be getting a copy of this email, right? Now she can set up the sales receipts. Then when you're reconciling, whether her or you, so it just depends on how you're comfortable, is you're literally just going to attach that deposit to the sales receipt. and then you're done. Like QuickBooks does everything else. And the sales receipt is what's telling you where that money should be allocated towards. So if I asked you how much money is coming from consultations, from yoga classes, from whatever, you get that all set up one time in QuickBooks. She does the sales receipt for that product or service. And now that's all the data of how much money you have for each product.
Right.
So where else does money come from? So Stripe is one of them. You said PayPal.
Mm-hmm. PayPal is another one, mostly when I sell online courses or say for some reason someone has a different price. Not very often. It's mostly online courses.
Okay. Do you know that you can set up your online courses with Stripe?
Yes, except can I? Oh, I see. Like it could go through that as well.
Yes.
Oh, that might make it easier. Do you know if the Stripe percentage they take is less than PayPal?
I think it's comparable. And I only know this because I just went through all this. I had been using PayPal. PayPal couldn't do everything. So I went to Stripe. And for the same reason I'm recommending to you is it gets complicated having money everywhere because now you're looking at your PayPal dashboard and you're looking at your Stripe dashboard and like all the places. So I would invite you to look at it and see if that's a decision you're willing to make is to have all the income coming through one place.
Oh, that might really simplify things, I think.
All right. And then the next one that you had mentioned is that you have e-transfers. Are you saying like, can you tell me what that is for you?
Yeah, sure. So if someone goes to sign up for a local course, like a teacher training, sometimes they'll just say, do you take e-transfers? Or if they're in the physio office and they want to pay for their package and they don't have a check or cash, I'll do e-transfer as well, which is fine for me. Like I'd actually prefer e-transfer to PayPal or Stripe because there's no fee.
When the e-transfer comes in, then again, when you're looking at QuickBooks, you're going to have this random deposit.
That one is not so bad now because I have every e-transfer that comes in through my email. It automatically marks it as accounting and it forwards it to our business one that my VA sees.
And you said cash is the other one.
Cash is the other one. And then that's why I was like, okay, that's it. I'm just going to start this envelope. Because it doesn't matter when I deposit that, I can just keep writing on it. And then I could take the cash out if I needed it. Can I? I guess that's a question of mine. Like say this week, a yoga student of mine gave me $75. So if I don't put $75 in my bank account, it doesn't show up.
Right
there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that would be advice you don't want recorded on a podcast. I'm going to let you go with whatever direction.
No, I don't even mean that I wouldn't record the income.
Yeah.
I love that you clarified that. No, what I mean is that can I still record the income even if I take the cash and I've spent it?
So I don't definitively know that because I have no cash in my business, but I think that there's a way to say, I'm thinking of the deposit screen actually in QuickBooks. And I believe you can do a deposit and then minus cash back. So let's say you use 40 of the 75 because you still want to give the client a receipt and all of that. So I'm going to say Google search or call QuickBooks for the actual how to do that.
Okay.
And then that's just about moving money and just tracking it all. And so you would track the full income and then say minus cash out. And then you would apply the cash out to whatever. You could say office expenses because you went to Office Depot and picked up paper. There's definitely a way to do it. I just don't know how to do that myself.
I wonder if it's simpler just to keep it in the envelope and then go to the bank every so often with the cash and then pay myself out of.
Keeping it really clean.
Yeah. My other question is that I basically just pay myself when I'm running low on money. When I'm like, oh my gosh, I won't be able to pay my bills if I don't move some money over.
Yeah.
Owner's draw. And so that's another goal of mine that I want to get to, like this regular, what my paycheck would be nice.
Okay, excellent. We are definitely going to get to that because I want to make sure we talk on that. So let's just finish out where all the money comes from, get that organized. Mm-hmm. And then I would love for you to have a plan of what actually you're going to be doing on a weekly basis versus either monthly or bi-monthly.
Okay.
So you like e-transfers, you have a process for that. You like cash, you tentatively have a process for that, and you're going to figure out how to account for that inside QuickBooks and such. So your goal on Fridays is to literally do all the positive things of the numbers, which is you're literally counting your money. Like that's what I want you to do, right? And so there should be no resistance to that one, right? That's a good thing as we're counting our money, we're making sure it's coming in and being allocated to all the right places. Okay.
Okay.
And you're going to get into your flow. But if you're using QuickBooks accurately, you're just going to be looking at your checking account. It's going to say you have 5 deposits. You need to match the deposits with either a sales receipt or an invoice. That's how it actually ends up on your profit and loss, is where the income money is being allocated towards. So that when we're talking on a monthly and quarterly basis, looking at your profit and loss, I want you to clearly know, I made this amount of money for classes. I made this amount of money for consultations. I made this amount of money for whatever that looks like. Okay. Because then that's where the decisions can be made from. Right?
Okay.
All right. Awesome. Now let's make a plan for the stickier things, which is honestly, it's only fun for a few people in the world, but it's like the expenses and it's matching the receipts and all that good stuff. I think doing that on a monthly basis is more than enough. I mean, you're only getting your statement once a month, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's not that fun. Like, I don't want to multiply the times I do something not fun in my business. I don't know about you, but it's okay to do it once a month, right?
Okay.
And now the once a month is going to get blocked out on your calendar at a specific time. Now, this is one of those tasks that I highly recommend that you do in a time that is going to set you up for success to do it most often. And what I mean by that is, do not schedule it for Friday afternoon when you're already checked out for the week. You're exhausted from the week. You probably may have your kids home already and you're trying to just cram in maybe a couple more hours before the weekend, whatever that looks like. I don't know your situation. Don't do it in low energy timeframes, distracted timeframes, times that is so easy for you to talk yourself out of it.
Okay. Maybe I could move it to Monday morning.
Will that want you to get out of bed and start the week? Let me ask you that one.
Well, Monday's already pretty packed because that's the day the podcast goes out and there's lots of things, like little things to do with that. So no, but here's the thing, like Tuesday, I go meet yoga students one-on-one. Mm-hmm. Wednesday is podcast day. Thursday is meet with consultation calls, unless I blocked it off. But I hate to do that. Like, I think if I block it off on Thursday morning, I could potentially be losing out on income.
Right. Because now it's saying not available. So why don't we do it on Monday, and we can do it after you have promoted your podcast.
Okay.
That could be a whole nother coaching session, but that will actually give you boundaries to not letting Monday be podcast day. Like it could be podcast hour or hours, right? Yes. And so you'll block that, and then you'll follow in through. Next to that is just, maybe 1 hour of doing your major financials. And we're talking once a month. So it's not every Monday, right?
Okay. Once a month, and I'll say it's for an hour, and then I can see, am I getting it all done? I should be able to.
I do mine twice a month. So the 10th and the 25th. And I know that you're super interested in the Profit First by Michalowicz. And we've had him on the podcast, so I will link to that in the show notes about how much it has absolutely changed my life. I cannot wait till the 10th and 25th of the month. That is where I want you to be at some point with having your systems in place. So the 10th of the month, I do it for 90 minutes because I'm closing out the previous month. On the 25th of the month I'm just doing my income and my expenses and paying myself. So it doesn't take as long. It's usually between 30 minutes and 45 minutes. So for me, I have it twice a month. For you, because you're getting cash in and you want to give receipts, you're looking at doing it weekly, which is your income, and then maybe doing your deep dive once a month.
Would it be too ambitious to say, I want to implement Profit First by the beginning of 2019? Would that be adding too much on?
No, I highly recommend it.
Okay. I heard Mike Michalowicz on your podcast first, and that's where I started to get interested in it. And then there was someone else on Amy Porterfield's podcast, and she was talking about an app for entrepreneurs who get hit and miss money, waves of money coming in. And it's called YNAB. You need a budget. And I'm kind of like, do I need to pay for another app? but I really love how it looks fun. Like it allocates your money. You have the income come in and then it budgets it all out.
Okay. So I don't need an app. I have an Excel spreadsheet and I will be happy to share it with you. For those of you listening that are not in context of what Profit First is, I highly recommend you go listen to the episode and the book, and I'll link to everything. My income is different every 10th and 25th too. Sometimes it's like high and sometimes it's lower. With the idea of Profit First is that you're allocating a certain percentage of your income no matter what. For me, I have specific allocation goals for each of the accounts. And the accounts are, well, first of all, you have one account, which is income. And then you have 4 other accounts. One is your operating expenses, your owner pay, profit, and then your tax payment, like you're saving for taxes. So I have 5 accounts. Each of those are allocated with a certain percentage. So let's just say, just for numbers' sakes, I get $10,000 in, I'm allocating 30% to operating, 30% to owner's pay, 30% to profit, and 10% to tax. That's mine personally. That's what works for me because of how much I pay myself, about how much my income is, about my expenses. So any goal is good. And if you read through Profit First, it's going to tell you. And in fact, this was for me, I took 0 profits for a while as I was implementing it because I ended up paying off a ton of debt. So there was no reason to be stacking cash up in my business when my goal was to be paying off all business debt. So then once I did that, then I was able to allocate a percentage to profit. With that being said, you had a couple questions. One is it too early? We're recording this at the end of October. You can be setting stuff up right now and literally be ready to rock it in January.
Okay.
2 is that I was sharing with you that it's 10,000, say on the 10th, and then what if it's 2,500 on the 25th? It doesn't change. It's a percentage of the income.
Okay.
Okay. And at first, it's going to feel rocky because you have hard expenses to have and your income fluctuates and you want to pay yourself a specific amount, but your income fluctuates. What had worked for me from personal experience was just staying consistent with these percentages. And then over time, what happens is you start stacking money. So I was putting in a little more than I needed for expenses. And sometimes on the 25th, I really wouldn't be reaching half of my expenses. But then on the next, I did more than I needed. And so you're literally using these accounts as little savings accounts because you're not only putting in exactly what comes in, goes out.
Okay. Now in Canada, I know you're in the US. Sometimes it costs when we have more and more accounts.
Yeah.
And so do you literally use a bank account or you use your Excel spreadsheet?
I literally use bank accounts.
Because I feel like that might be easier.
On the 10th and 25th, I literally look at my income account and whatever is there. Say it's $2,482.03. The Excel formulas that I set up is that I just put that number in one field. It tells me how much to transfer in the other 4 accounts while keeping $200 in my income account. I just do that for a buffer. At some point, you can ask your banking institution, is there a minimum? So one, is there a minimum on a particular account? Or there's also the opportunity that they can set you up in kind of a portfolio of accounts. And so they take the average of all 5 accounts together to give you free accounts. So those are some questions to ask. I would just partner with your financial institution and ask what your options are to keep those expenses lower. And if you're not getting the answers you like, go to the next bank and ask them because they're going to want your business.
Right.
They're going to want your business. So yeah, I totally separate them out. To me, it's too confusing to try and keep them in one account and then keep balances and updating. You would never know. The whole point is that I can literally look at my profit account and I can say, okay, I'm ready for my next investment, whether that's a coach or a marketing or like whatever. Like I'm making business decisions that are one-off expenses based on what's in my profit account. Also, based on that and what my business needs on a quarterly basis, I'm drawing that profit as owner's pay as a bonus.
Right.
Because my owner's income account is just like my regular paycheck. And for you and for anyone listening, like I started really low. And if anyone's been listening to the podcast for any time, like, you know, I was paying my part-time 10-hour-a-week assistant more than I was paid in the first year of my business, right? Like I get it. So start small. And the idea is that you never go back. If you said, I'm going to pay myself $250 twice a week, that might be more than you're taking sporadically right now. We don't know, right?
I think it might be.
Yeah, right. So then you just commit to $250 and then reevaluate it in a quarter and you're like, hey, I owe myself a raise. And so now you get 350 or 500, but you never go backwards. So you always want it to be an amount that you can definitely pay yourself out of your business. And then you build upon that.
Okay.
We're going deep only because I'm so passionate about Profit First and how it's definitely changed my business and my life and about money. Because right now, what you shared with me is a typical entrepreneur. You literally look at your personal account and you're like, eeks, okay, I'm going to transfer money over. And that could be sporadic. It could be if there was an emergency in your personal life or, you need new tires, but it's not consistent. And when we're not prepared for that, then it stresses our business because now how are we paying our business expenses or whatever that looks like? So just having more structure around this will literally get you so excited to pay yourself every 10th and 25th and see the money like stacking little bit, little bit, little bit. The other thing that I have spoken really honestly about to you is through Profit First and seeing the different accounts stack and being able to allocate based on my income. And this doesn't matter, like little income, big income. This is giving you the information needed to make decisions.
Right.
So when you're talking about on a monthly basis, you want to be able to see things to make decisions. Now, your profit and loss is going to be able to give you the whole health of, your business year to date. It can give you specifics on where you're maybe wasting income, but also where your revenue is coming from. But my 5 accounts tell me when I can make a pivot, like hire somebody else on. Like I've stacked money in my operating account. And I'm like, okay, so it appears I've been able to save some money over the last 5 months. Would it be an investment to hire somebody else in my business, whether that's contractor or part-time employee or something? And I feel safe doing that because I have the money. The money's literally looking back at me and saying, oh, you're there waiting for me to spend as operating expenses.
That makes a lot of sense because I have 3 people hired for the podcast, like my VA, my audio editor, and my show notes writer. And we just hired a show notes writer and we're working through the negotiation. And I'm kind of looking at what the expenses are. And then I can see how, even if I was going to say increase the hours for my VA, right now, it's just like a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
We'll see how it pans out after the next month. But
yeah.
If I start running out of money, then I know but I can see how it's switching.
Yeah, and you've got to back out, right? So one tip that I have for you here too, Shannon, is when my VA sends me an invoice, she breaks up her time, general administrative tasks and podcasting tasks.
Oh, I did ask her if she could do that. And I was like, would it take you a lot of time? Because I feel like it would really help me to see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have her split it out. And then when I pay her, I literally divide the payment over 2 expense categories. One is general administrative contract work, and one is podcasting contractor work. And the reason is because a little, about half of her salary or, expense is podcasting. Plus I have an audio editor. Plus I have certain programs and apps and hosting and stuff that are all podcasting. And so then when I'm looking at my profit and loss, I can literally see how much money is being invested to specifically podcasting. Because for you and I, that's such a huge expense in our business. I want to be able to see that.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
And then when you're bumping her up 10 hours, you can say, this is 10 additional hours for strictly administrative. Like my other side of my business needs this. Like the podcast can't afford 10 additional hours and it probably doesn't need it, or like whatever that looks like. Again, you're using data to make decisions.
Well, the other way this even plays in is we went through this whole thing, like, should we do an audiogram as part of the podcast? And I was like, I don't know, like, do we need it? And so we'd be able to track then. We could try it for a month, do that and see if we somehow look like we were bumping up in our numbers or if we had that extra bit there.
Yeah, because you'll have the audiogram program expense and then you'll have her time of clipping it and doing all the things. I use an audiogram as well. And we have those conversations. In fact, about 2 weeks ago, the entire meeting with my assistant was, okay, what do we not have to do anymore? With regards to podcasting, what's not giving us a return? What are we not doing? Because oftentimes we're always having meetings with our staff about what can we do? Like, what can we add? What can we do more of? What can we make better? All of those things. And I had just felt that our bandwidth was being maximized. So the first thing we need to do is, what are we going to do? Stop doing? What are we going to do less of? To open up the conversation of what does it look like moving forward? And the first thing we need to do is open up resources, both financial and time.
Right.
Yeah. So again, I guess my whole thing is, numbers aren't fun, but dang, making decisions in our business, I think are fun. All right. Like, if you look at the positive, is that you feel confident and your shoulders are raised and you're sitting up straight and you're like, I am the CEO and I'm making the decision that we are cutting this out of podcasting and we are adding this to my marketing and I am getting help X here in my business. All of that is scary as hell decisions when we're doing it with no data or insights or numbers to know if we can make it happen. Mm-hmm. So we want to take that like scary monster out of the closet and look at him, and we're going to realize, oh, you're just ones and O's. Like, you're just numbers. Numbers are going to give us the intel that we need to make really good strategic decisions in our business.
Okay.
All right, Shannon. So we talked about a lot today, and I kind of knew this episode was going to go deep and long, but I want to make sure that I answered any of your burning questions. Like, leaving here, do you have any questions that you think you need answered to move forward?
No, I feel like that's a really good plan. Like, the Friday feels like fun Friday finances. Like, I just get to look at my income first thing. Yeah. And then once a month on the Monday for now, I'm going to look at my expenses, like just making sure everything's reconciled from all spots. I'm excited to consolidate PayPal and Stripe, make that a little simpler.
Yes.
I'll check in with my VA. Like, can she start to do a little bit more? Like, she took on some of the accounting and she probably could take on some more of that, and then let her know my goal of being able to see it once a month.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So that's great. So I asked you if you had any questions, no questions, and you identified your own action items. You're like a perfect coaching client. So I don't end any session without super clear about what is your way forward and what are your action steps. And it sounds like you have some really good action steps. And I think above that, just having some conversation about how can we get excited about something that's been daunting, and how do we ensure you get your kitchen back and not feel overwhelmed anymore? And what does it look like and feel like to pay yourself on a regular basis and watch that and have incremental goals of giving yourself a raise and a raise. I think those are all huge wins when we get our finances organized and feel like we are conquering them and they're not conquering us, right? And feeling overwhelmed. Just for the sake of the audience that's listening, I do want to mention that it's really, really common that there's such a backlog of a mess or of overwhelm, or, maybe you're thinking, yeah, I want to get organized. I just listened to this episode. I know my way forward. What gets us tripped up is our backlog. We can see the positive on the way forward, but what gets overwhelming is the backlog. My advice for this, and I'm sharing this now with you listening in because we've already had this conversation, Shannon, I had this on our strategy session, is that I literally want you to start today, okay? And if that doesn't make sense and it's like the 23rd, okay, I'll give you till the 1st, start on the 1st of the month. And from that point forward, you're going to execute your new way of managing your money and organization. And then from the backlog, I want you to stop that and I want you to look at it as a project. Because when they blend together, that gets too overwhelming. So from today forward, you've got your new strategy. Create it, block it out, time it, create your checklist, do whatever you need to do to create your new way forward. Everything backwards needs to be considered a project. And so you need to look at it as project managing it. What is it going to take to get caught up on reconciling, to pay your taxes, whatever that looks like? Take an audit of it and then break it out into smaller projects and get it on your calendar. That is my best advice, to not let the back influence the forward for you. And I've seen it time and time again. And I've also seen success time and time again. So I'm giving you some inspiration, like this is possible. It is more than possible. And I think that each of you listening can make the decision on what it's going to look like moving forward. And by the time this drops, we're literally going to be right around the corner from a fresh start in 2019. I think the biggest gift that you can give me as the host is to send me like, oh my gosh, I'm starting 2019 with my new plan and I'm committed to it because I'm going to make CEO decisions. Thank you, Shannon, so much for tapping me on the shoulder and bringing this topic that I obviously am a little passionate about and I just know helps so many people. It's because it's all intertwined. Like if we don't have our numbers in order, now we're having mindset issues about profitability in our business and success. And literally, it can all start with organization. So thank you so much for being here and being our guest. And I can't wait to get an update from you after you've had time to execute on these actionable items.
I will be sure to send an update. And I have to say something about the project because you introduced that concept to me the last time. And what was so motivating was you were like, this is your project time. We carved that out in the week. Right now, it's working on this accounting backlog. But then you said, once you do that, you will have this project time for other projects. So for me, I was like, okay, that is super motivating. Like, let's get into that. Yeah.
Because this project might not sound that fun, but it's literally the way forward. It's weighing you down. And when I say you, I mean, in general, it weighs everybody down.
Yeah.
So then the excitement is, you get to replace that time with something super fun, like a new program or a new teaching or new revenue stream, because you've exercised the muscle of literally booking that time, showing up, and then consistently. That is the win. Like that's the little golden nugget that nobody gets. Like they think, oh, my finances are now organized and clean and the project's done. Now that's the given. But the real gold is that you've exercised that muscle and that you know that you can commit to a time even for the unfun stuff. And so what does that look like in your business now that you can replace it with really cool stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Awesome. So I kind of got myself all worked up because you identified your actionables. Usually I help identify the actionables. You did a great job. So the last thing that we're missing to close this out is when. When will you have these actionables completed? And generally I break them down per action. And so if you want to do that, we can, or you can just say, Amber, I'm going to give you an update on X date that I've accomplished all these things.
Okay. Well, I definitely feel like I could implement this by the end of November. I can let you know how things are going. And my goal is then to get all of these actionables done so that I can start Profit First.
Yes.
In December, like get set up in December and be ready to roll for January.
Excellent. Awesome. That sounds amazing. So I can't wait to hear from you in 1 month. So this is 4 weeks at the end of November with your update.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for listening to another episode of Productivity Straight Talk. I have loved having you listen, but I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So, based on what you heard today, based on what you learned, what are you going to take action on today? What is it that if you took action on could actually make the needle move in your business or reduce the stress or allow you to reclaim time for what matters most? I am inviting you to take that action today. Now, I didn't let you in on all of the details of this coaching session early on, but as you can tell, it was all about finances and organization of finances. And I've got to tell you, this is a huge, huge topic with my clients. There are so many of you out there that are in total disorganization with your back end finances, paying taxes, not really clear, and a lot of avoidance and fear and feeling stuck and not knowing what to do next is surrounding your finances. And I can tell you after working with many, many, many clients on this very same topic, that when you get stuck in activities, projects, and tasks around your finances, you are definitely creating a sticking point in your abundance of money, your money mindset, money flowing to you. When you are able to organize your finances, when you're able to come to the table with information to make decisions in your business and being proactive as to how you are investing your money and that you know where your money's coming from, it is super, super valuable and empowering as you grow your business. This is one area in which I check in with every single one of my coaching clients, and we get under control early on in our coaching experience because it is so important for the growth of your business. So if this hit home with you, if you were like, oh my gosh, I have the same issues in my business, I am inviting you to take the steps needed to get a hold of it, to conquer this and to get it past you so that you can move freely in the growth of your business. Not just growth in general, but specifically growth in your money, in your revenue, in your profitability. If after hearing today's episode, you are interested in working with me, I am inviting you to reach out. I do offer one-on-one coaching as well as group coaching, and we can definitely chat about what opportunity and type of coaching is best for you and your goals. You can email me directly at amber@theproductivityspecialist.com. Again, that's amber@theproductivityspecialist.com. And we will schedule a discovery call to chat about your goals and to see if coaching with me is a right fit. I would love for you to share your actionables and receive support, guidance, and motivation from entrepreneurs just like you. If you had some major takeaways from today's session, why don't you come on over to our private Facebook community, Productivity Straight Talk. If you're not already a member, you can join us by going to productivitycommunity.com. Again, that's productivitycommunity.com. Leave me your name and email address, and I will send you our unique link into our private Facebook group. If you're already a Productivity Straight Talk insider, jump on into the group and let me know what you took away from this episode and what you're committed to taking action on next. And as always, I want to thank you so much for leaving me some great reviews and sharing Productivity Straight Talk with other entrepreneurs. You're not just sharing information, you're giving the gift of improved productivity and maximized profits. I have a special shout out today and thank you to Constance King, who recently said, Amber always hits it out of the park. Her topics apply to anyone, no matter what they do in life for their career, or for that matter, just in your daily life. She's passionate on her topics and passionate about motivating others to become the best they can be. Truly an amazing podcast. Share her thoughts with your friends and family. They will be blown away. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Constance, for sharing that with me and with everyone else that's reading these reviews. Well, that's my straight talk for you today. And until next time, have a productive week.